Welcome to Philippine Stories, deep dive channel, where we peel back the layers of life in the Philippines, going beyond just the headlines.
Yeah, think of us as your guides,
Mm.
digging into the heart of the story, helping you understand the why behind the what's.
And today we're diving deep into something I know a lot of you are curious about, the upcoming 2025 Philippine Senatorial elections.
Now, before you think this is just another political rundown, let me stop you right there. We're not here to tell you who to vote for.
Right. Instead, think of this as like a deep dive into the minds of Filipino voters. Why do they vote the way they do? What are their motivations? What's really important to them?
And to understand that, we've got some fascinating insights from a recent survey, one that took a totally unique approach.
Okay, so typical election polls, they're all about predictions,
Right.
right? Who's ahead, who's behind.
Mhm.
But this survey, it's different.
It is. Instead of just asking who are you voting for, this survey digs deeper. It asks Filipinos about their hopes, their fears, their priorities for the country, and get this, it even dives into their views on specific political issues.
So less about the who, more about the why I like it.
Exactly. It's about understanding the driving forces behind Filipino voting behavior, what makes them tick, what issues keep them up at night.
All right, spill the beans. What did this survey reveal about what Filipino voters are really concerned about going into this election?
Well, you won't be surprised to hear that three issues consistently rose to the top: corruption, inflation, and education.
Yeah, those are definitely hot button topics in the Philippines. I mean, who isn't worried about those things? But I'm guessing this survey goes deeper than just identifying the issues.
You bet it does. The really interesting part is how voters want these issues tackled. What qualities are they looking for in the people they elect?
Okay, now we're getting to the good stuff. So what are Filipino voters looking for in their senators?
Here's where things get really interesting. When asked about the most important qualities in a senator, Filipinos overwhelmingly prioritized honesty and integrity above all else.
Wow, so it's not just about flashy promises or charisma, it's about trust. Filipinos want a leader they believe in, someone they can rely on.
Absolutely. Think about it. It's not enough to just talk the talk anymore. Voters are demanding action. They're looking for leaders who walk the walk, who genuinely embody those values of honesty and integrity.
So they're not just looking at party affiliations or catchy slogans. They're looking for someone with a solid moral compass, someone who's proven they can be trusted.
Right. And this emphasis on integrity is particularly striking when you consider the political landscape in the Philippines. I mean, let's be real, there have been some controversies, right?
For sure, there have been times when trust in politicians has been shaken. But it seems like Filipinos are sending a clear message. They're demanding a higher standard of ethical leadership. They're tired of the old ways of doing politics.
Exactly. And it's not just about empty words. The survey also dug into specific actions Filipinos want to see from the Senate to combat corruption.
Okay, so what kind of concrete steps are they looking for? What do they want their senators to do?
One thing that came up loud and clear was the need for increased transparency in government. Filipinos want to know where their money is going, how decisions are being made. They're demanding clear, accessible information about everything the government is doing. No more secrets, no more backroom deals.
That makes a lot of sense. Transparency can be a powerful tool for keeping things honest. It's like shining a light on the whole process.
Exactly. And, it's not just about preventing corruption. It's also about holding those in power accountable.
Right. If everything's out in the open, it's harder to get away with shady dealings.
Exactly. And Filipinos are also calling for stronger laws and harsher penalties for corruption. They want to see real consequences for those who abuse their power.
So it's a multi-pronged approach,
Right.
transparency to prevent it and tough penalties to deter it. It's clear that Filipinos are serious about tackling corruption.
They are. And you know what else is really fascinating? This survey didn't just rely on typical demographics like age, location, or income.
Well, that's interesting. So how did they group the respondents?
They took a completely different approach. They grouped voters based on their shared beliefs, values, and political views, and they called these groups psychographic cohorts.
Psychographic cohorts, that sounds pretty high tech. What exactly does that mean and what did they find?
Well, it's a fascinating approach, really. Instead of lumping people together based on age or income, they're looking at what really drives their decisions, their beliefs, their values, their worldview.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this is way more insightful than your average poll. So tell me, what kind of groups did they find these psychographic cohorts? Paint me a picture.
All right, so picture this. You've got a group called disillusioned idealists.
Ooh, that sounds intriguing. Who are these folks?
Well, think younger, educated, politically aware. These are people who deeply care about the Philippines, but they've become disillusioned with the current political system. They're tired of the corruption. The empty promises, the lack of progress.
So not apathetic, just disappointed like they've lost faith in the way things are.
Exactly. But here's the thing. They still have hope. They're still looking for leaders who can bring about real change. Leaders who share their values. Think of them as the ones pushing for a new way of doing things.
I can definitely see how understanding this group would be valuable for any politician trying to connect with voters.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got the disillusioned idealists. What other groups emerged from this analysis?
All right, imagine someone who's seen a lot of political ups and downs, someone who values stability and security above all else. That's your pragmatic loyalist.
Okay, so completely different mindset from the disillusioned idealists. If the idealists are looking for a shakeup, the loyalists want someone they can depend on.
Right. These are folks who are less about rocking the boat and more about steady leadership. They often base their voting decisions on party affiliation or loyalty to a particular political figure. They want someone they believe they can trust to keep things running smoothly.
It's fascinating how this approach reveals such distinct groups within the Filipino electorate. And you said there were even more.
Oh, absolutely. We've just scratched the surface. This survey also identified groups like the aspiring entrepreneurs, folks who are all about economic growth and opportunity. They're looking for leaders who can create jobs, boost the economy, and help them achieve their dreams. And then you've got the community guardians who are deeply invested in social welfare and local issues. They want leaders who will prioritize their communities, their families, and their everyday needs.
This is blowing my mind. So we're not just lumping voters into age groups anymore. We're getting into the psychology of their choices. It makes you wonder, which one of these groups do you fall into as a listener?
Right. And the beauty of this approach is that it paints such a rich and complex picture of the Filipino electorate. It shows us that it's not just about demographics. It's about psychographics, understanding the why behind the vote.
Okay, so I have to ask, knowing all this, how can candidates even hope to connect with such a diverse and nuanced electorate? Is it even possible to appeal to all these different psychographic cohorts at the same time?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's definitely a challenge, but the survey gives us some clues. One thing is clear. Generic slogans and empty promises just aren't going to cut it anymore.
So no more vote for me and I'll fix everything.
Exactly. Candidates need to step up their game. They need to show that they understand the unique concerns and aspirations of each voter group. It's about tailoring their messages and platforms to resonate with the values and priorities of each psychographic cohort.
So they need to speak directly to the disillusioned idealists, the pragmatic loyalists, the aspiring entrepreneurs, the community guardians. It's almost like they need to become chameleons, adapting their message for each group.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I think it's fair to say that successful candidates will be the ones who can strike a balance between authenticity and adaptability.
Yeah.
They need to stay true to their own values, but also show a willingness to listen and respond to the diverse needs of the electorate.
It seems like this points to a shift away from personality-driven politics. It's less about charisma and more about substance.
You hit the nail on the head. It's about moving towards a more issue-oriented approach. It's about the what and the how of governance, not just the who.
So Filipinos are saying, show us your plan. Tell us how you're going to tackle corruption, inflation, education.
Exactly. They want concrete solutions, not just empty rhetoric. They want to see evidence of past accomplishments, a track record of getting things done.
It's a tall order, but it seems like Filipino voters are raising the bar for their elected officials. They're demanding more.
And that's a good thing. It's a sign of a maturing electorate, one that's becoming more informed and engaged in the political process. They're not just passively accepting the status quo, they're demanding better.
So if we zoom out a bit, what does this all tell us about the state of democracy in the Philippines? Is this a sign that things are moving in the right direction?
That's a great question, and one that I think we need to explore a bit further. What we're seeing here is a potential turning point, but what will it lead to?
It's easy to get cynical about politics, especially with all the noise and drama out there. But what we're seeing here, this shift in Filipino voters, it's actually pretty inspiring.
I agree they're demanding more from their leaders. They're not settling for the status quo. They're holding those in power accountable.
And they're doing it with a level of sophistication that's really impressive. This whole concept of psychographic cohorts, it really changes the game. It's not just about demographics anymore. It's about understanding the motivations, the values, the deep-seated beliefs that drive people's choices.
Absolutely. It's about seeing beyond the surface, recognizing the complexity of the Filipino electorate. And, that's a sign of a healthy democracy when citizens are informed, engaged, and actively shaping the political landscape.
So as we head into this election, what's the one key takeaway you want to leave our listeners with? What should they keep in mind as they navigate all the campaign noise and make their decisions?
I think the most important thing is to look beyond the slogans, the personalities, the political maneuvering, engage with the issues, scrutinize the candidates' track records, and most importantly, vote for those who align with your values. Vote for those who you believe will genuinely serve the best interests of the Philippines.
That's great advice. Vote with your heart in your head. This deep dive into the minds of Filipino voters has been truly eye-opening. We've uncovered the key issues shaping the election, the qualities voters are seeking in their leaders, and those fascinating psychographic cohorts that paint such a vibrant picture of the electorate.
And remember, you as a listener are part of this story. Your vote matters, your voice matters. The future of the Philippines is being shaped right now, and you have a role to play in that.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm left wondering if traditional factors like demographics aren't the main drivers of how Filipinos vote. What deeper cultural or societal values might be at play here? It's something to ponder, isn't it? What values are shaping your own decisions as you head to the polls?
It's a question worth asking ourselves, and one that we'll continue to explore here on Philippine Stories Deep Dive. Until next time, keep digging, keep questioning, and keep the conversation going.